Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News, and this is World News tonight. And I got William on the phone, and I want to start off with there is a Roger Reeves that's coming forward over the last few days on YouTube. And he has been talking about how he was the main pilot for Barry Seal and El Chapo, and how he brought in the drugs by the Clintons into Arkansas and more. He mentions the boys in Arkansas and how 10 boys were killed. And I haven't done the boys on the track in a very long time, but I wanted to bring that up real quickly. Now, what we have going on with the Democrats, folks, is they're calling not just Trump, but they're calling all of us fascists. And what is fascism? We have to really take a look at it, because fascism goes back a long time, and the goals that the socialists are trying to achieve are noble. The rhetoric of socialism is very attractive. It speaks of humane ideal. Marx and Marxists and communists are after socialism. Marx believed that the vast inequalities of wealth from too many rich people, let's tax them. And that if we do this, that it will help bring our world to freedom. And what they don't tell you is Marx, as well as Marxism, and even when you look at socialism, you bring in so many programs that it raises our taxes. And when it raises our taxes, then we have to pay more, not only at the supermarket, at the gas station, mortgage payments. And see, that's what socialism is, because then they have control. William, if you want to jump in. What it does is it leads to inequalities of power.
Yeah, socialism started with the French Revolution, so that gives you an idea of what a wonderful right it is.
And Marx was right when he said the secret to Marxism is a liberal society, folks. What the human history shows is people like having their own things. People like, people like owning their property, their cars, and all that. That's not what socialism is. Actually, socialism is a denial of private property and its rights.
Mark was a cretin that never paid his bills, demanded his family care for his finances, a whole bunch of other things. Had a terrible set of morals as far as husband and wife, and so he's going to be like that.
Yeah. And it doesn't work economically. It produces human misery is what it does.
Yeah.
Now, Marxist socialism was prevailing and it's the whole ideology of it is very attractive. In one of the most powerful countries in the world, over in Europe, we're talking all of Europe, they were forced into socialism. And that's where the protests are coming. And then even moving into the UK, where they brought in socialism, and we started to see the protests there. And it's happening even in the Soviet Union. Stalin took very serious that socialism needs to transform human nature, and that the government needs to control everything you have. And as we,
and your relationships, they own your children, husband and wife is not a big deal,
And, well, they want to cleanse the human nature is one of the descriptions of it. And they do it with the ideology of freedom. Put freedom and freedom of your life. And what is the Democrats running on? And I hate to be a downer on the Democrats tonight, but I got a lot of stuff here. Um, uh, so, fascism. Well, he's a fascist, they said. For decades, this has been a favorite smear of the left aimed at those on the right. Every Republican president, for the matter, basically since the 1970s, has been called a fascist. He's a fascist. Yeah, he's a white supremacist. They have not given any proof. And when you talk about fascism, this label is based on the idea that fascism is a phenomenon, not a political right. The left says it is, and some self-styled white supremacists or neo-Nazis is a label they add to it. They embrace this label, but are they correct? What is the underlying ideology? Where does it come from? These are not easy questions to answer, but we know that the name of a philosopher of capitalism was Adam Smith. And we know that the name of the philosopher of Marxism was Karl Marx. But who is the philosopher of fascism? Uh, don't if we don't know it, don't feel bad, because this is not because he doesn't exist, but historians, most of whom are on the political left, had to erase from history in order to avoid confronting fascism actual beliefs. His name
So,
is Giovanni Gentile. He was born in
so
1875, and he was one of the world's most influential philosophers in the first half of the 20th century.
so Italy was the first expression of fascism with Mussolini. And then Germany came along.
And what it does is it resembles a warm-hearted family, a community. We're all in this together. We're all in this together for freedom. It's easy to see the attraction of this idea. Indeed, it remains a common radical uh, theme of the left. For example, in 1984, the convention of the Democrat Party of the governor of New York, Mario Cuomo, they said the same thing about him. He's a fascist. He's into fascism. He's a white supremacist. He's a neo-Nazi. Nothing's changed. 30 years later, the slogan of even 2012 Democrat Party was, "The government is the only thing we all belong to."
If the United States had not come along, we'd still be in monarchies.
And fascists are the only ones that push socialism or social programs and freedom. German fascists in the 1930s were called Nazis. That's where they get this from. That's where they get he's a neo-Nazi. No, he's not. And they said there was boos and hisses, and there was people coming over the crowd at this Madison Square Garden. I didn't hear it. I went back and listened. There's no boos. There's no chants. There's no um, people throwing words out there at Trump. Why didn't Beyonce perform? Yeah, we're talking the Democrats. Okay, so the thing about this, folks, is it's well known for over 100 years that when your government pushes social programs and wants to bring in socialism, they are fascism. They're the fascists. They're the neocons. They're the neo-Nazis.
They want the United States to do what Europe's done. Europe has been supported by the United States, so communism and fascism would never have survived without the capitalism of the United States. Um, 77 million would have starved in Russia after World War II. We sent them wheat by the trainload. Germany would have starved if we hadn't done the Berlin airlift. It goes on and on. Even China, we helped bail China out of their 100 million deaths for their Great Leap Forward, right? And we allowed them into a semi-capitalist economy to save lives in China.
Yeah.
They just simply wouldn't have existed without the United States.
Well,
they're just monarchies and imperial dynasties.
Yeah. And I have went back and I've listened to Biden and Kamala Harris, and we're both together from the very beginning. You don't have a vice president that, oh, I'm going to go do my own thing and I don't care. No, she was sitting right next to him when a lot of things were put into place. Like when the Harris or Biden Harris administration flew in Venezuela gangs. And not only that, we've seen the sanctuary cities put in place. And what did they do? They filled them up with Antifa and MS-13. You remember Nancy Pelosi used to hug. It showed pictures of her just so into that MS-13 and Antifa weren't that bad. These were nice people. They were just given the wrong name. They cut the police departments. They cut ICE. They cut DHS. They cut Border Patrol. They
squelched our internet as well.
Right. Yeah, they did the internet. They gave Iran, Iraq, which is ISIS, Taliban in Afghanistan, not only money for their military, but we left military equipment there. The sanctuary cities is now being filled with Venezuela gangs and ISIS.
And keep in mind, those sanctuary cities are going to financially fail. And when they do, they're going to want money from the non-sanctuary cities to fix their problem.
But not only that, William, they paid when we were at the Afghanistan war. That was a long time ago. We gave terrorists money to fight Afghanistan. And not only that, but we gave money. We've given money to Hamas and Hezbollah because of the Palestinians. This is what Harris-Biden administration is all about. It's supplying terrorists.
The money to Iran over the IRGC.
Right. But, William, we're giving terrorists money. And we're giving them supplies. And we're giving them everything they need. And what are they doing? They're coming here in the form of, I'm a migrant. I need amnesty. I'm going to run to Sanctuary City. And where they're embraced by the Biden-Harris administration. They created ISIS. Cheney did. It was about bin Laden. We were supposed to go to Afghanistan. Oh, no, Cheney said. We got to go after Iraq and so that we can get them to quit spraying their people. And in the meantime, we funded ISIS out of this.
They wanted to topple 7 different Arab governments.
And we have, I think you told me earlier on, and this kind of goes with it, that we've let 30 million migrants into this country or more that got through the border that we don't know about. Over 30,000 folks, 30,000 are either terrorists or in gangs that want to come over and hurt people here. They want to rob, they want crime, they want to kill us. And we're supporting them. They're getting welfare, they're getting money, they're getting food stamps, they're getting housing, they're given checks every month of close to, I think those in Ohio, Springfield, Ohio, I talked to the mayor there, and they're getting close to $3,000 a month to live.
So that's like 1,500 terrorists per state.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
750,000.
Wake up, folks. You got to share the show tonight.
They're
You
in your
got to share the
neighborhood.
show and to tell people that what they have let in. And what have they done this week? Well, um, DOD just did martial law. Why? Why are they doing martial law? Well, they're going to brace for unrest if Donald Trump wins. This is what the Democrats are warning. Americans should prepare for unrest if former Donald Trump completes the greatest political comeback in modern history. They say that they are expecting political violence, and it undermines the narrative that the Republicans have. I think there will be a lot of violence. I think there will be workplace fights. I think there'll be everyone will go against family members and friends, and this is going to be an uprising where they'll tear up sanctuary cities. It says. And then today, it wasn't today the DOD put in martial law. It keeps Trump from going
Well,
into the presidency, folks.
they brought forth a document that gives DOD the power to engage in martial law should the president require it in the United States. They have to have a reason. It would have to be over violence. It would have to be over looting. It would have to be over something, right?
Yeah. Well, we're seeing that they're getting ready for the uprise.
Departments and sheriff's departments, once they're overrun, they ask for the state patrol, and once the state patrol's overrun, it's the guard, and after the guard's overrun, what happens next? That's martial law.
Yeah, and it keeps the next president to coming in. It keeps them in power until they can get a civil rest. Is there going to be civil rest? And according to the Democrats and what's coming, and I had to call on my ladies that are there at Congress and Senate. And I said, what's going on? What's the whispers? And they said the whispers are they know they're not, they have the feeling they're not going to win. It's not that they know they're not going to win, they have a feeling. And if so, this is their only chance to express saving freedom for the people of the United States. Freedom of what?
Freedom from the Constitution, probably.
Huh.
Not for the Constitution, from the Constitution. That's a negative, right?
So, every state, even New York, they're saying that Trump is, well, when they count these folks, realize when they're giving you these numbers on the media, it is how many Republicans have voted, how many Democrats have voted. And so far, it's about 15% of Republicans have put in their vote over the Democrats. So there is a good chance that he can win. I know me and William's going to be here election night. Poor William, he's going to have to get extra gravy for his dog. But we're going to be here all night.
I came up with a new way.
Oh. And so, folks, when we look at this, this is going to be one of the biggest elections in history of where we have two parties. It's almost like what's going on over in the Middle East, William, where we've got the Sunnis and the Shiites, and they're against each other. We have got this country to the point to where it's Democrats versus Republicans. They have broken up families, friendships, workplaces.
It's like just before Civil War.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, Civil War was fomented by our good friends across the pond in England.
And I plan on doing a show on this because I even called Dave Hodges, but I got sick, and it's really hard for me to do anything with how sick I am lately. Um, when we look at how we have funded terrorists to tear up countries and bring them down, like Iraq and Syria and other places in the world, to where China has moved in. And I have told you on this show from what I have found from all the way from JFK, and I know William's going to say it's earlier than that, on. The Democrats have been pushing for one, uh, be like all the other countries, and the only to have a one world order or one president that stays in place, or they might change and in between themselves elect their own. But what I'm finding out is they tear the country down, and they put it into such a civil disarray. That's what happened in Africa. Uh, the African people actually turned against white farmers and went in and killed them and took their farms.
and then got hungry.
Yeah, and then just left, and everything that was feeding Africa from these farms, they went hungry. And the same way that we have seen over in the Middle East, it gets destroyed. The person they want in power actually gets in power. That's going to stay in power, and the only country left is the United States. The UK has conformed. Europe has conformed. And I think that's what they're doing to Ukraine right now. They're going to tear it up so they can move in. The Biden family has bought so much into Ukraine, they could almost own Ukraine. And not only that, we have seen it from the Clintons to the Biden family, where they have bought so much into China and China businesses, China military, that it's they are like buddies over there. And we have done the Republicans, unfortunately, from Reagan years on, we had a bunch of old guys in there, and they just didn't have our best interest. Now we've got new fresh blood into Congress and Senate, and they're fighting this. You know, it used to be the Democrats were the ones that protest and wanted uh, anti-government. You know, they were all anti-government. Now it's the Republicans. The Republicans are standing up and saying, no, we don't want this government. We don't want socialism. We don't want Marx or fascism. We don't want the one world order. And unfortunately, it was Bush family that brought it in. They were the ones sputing, let's do the one world order. But now look who they support. They supported Hillary. They like Bill. Bill's like a son to them. He's one of the family. He's, you
Of
know,
all
he's
this world violence that we've seen in just the last 4 years,
yeah.
began with George
Well,
Bush's 1,000 points of light.
yeah, and I read through what they've done over the last 4 years. Look at the prices. And they said, oh, let's jack up um, um, your wage. You know, you deserve minimum wage of 15, 16, $20 an hour. Well, what does that do? It causes a company to raise the prices. And this whole thing with tariffs, folks, went back, I think in the 1800s, there was only tariffs, there wasn't income tax, and everybody had money. They started seeing a richness with the tariffs. I want you to understand that, because the tariffs are so important right now, because that will bring all these big companies that have left under the Biden and Obama administration to come back. They because it's the only way to do it. And if
So
the
the
Democrats
United
always
States,
accuse us of, oh, we're in for the billionaires and the big companies. Well, the big companies are supporting the Democrats. Why? Because they can raise their prices. History is
the
repeating itself. Mary just said that. History is repeating itself. Um,
yes,
And I know we're a week away from the election, but I have to warn you guys. They spout freedom, 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 freedom of what? You know, I went to, and Camilla Harris says, "Oh, I can't answer your question of my policies. You're going to have to go to my webpage." I went there. You know, the only thing missing from there was, well, I grew up in a middle class family. There is nothing there. I was waiting to see the policies. I was waiting to see what she was going to do. The only thing she says is she's going to raise your taxes, our taxes. And what's that going to do? You're going to put out more money. She's going to tax the millionaires and billionaires and the companies. What's that mean? The prices are going to go up, and she's not into tariffs. And not only
And
that,
her
but
job's going to go overseas.
they will put us into a war that it will be very scary. Because why? Because they have no foreign policy. They don't know foreign policy. Biden never did, and Harris never did. Biden, the only thing he has fought for is segregation in the schools. Harris has only fought for to be rich. Folks, she slept her way to the top. She can't even know. She doesn't even know how to be a politician. When you sleep your way to the top, you don't know about foreign policy. You don't know how to run the country, and you don't know how to be a politician. Ha 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 ha, she says. And I didn't want to put this much into it tonight, William. I really didn't, but we're getting down to the wire where they're claiming freedom. They're claiming we are neo Nazis. We're white supremacists. White people are. They're attacking the white people of America. Why? Because they want to bring in they what their plan is to bring in 100 million migrants. The United States will be a thoroughfare for the rest of the world, and we will pay for the rest of the world. This isn't what we want, folks. This isn't, we don't want their freedom. We want the freedom that we had during the Trump administration. And it was fine. He's going to have a lot of work, William. And you know, the first thing I said is they need to do away with sanctuary cities. And I've been saying that for a couple of weeks. And then when I seen Trump speak at Madison Square Gardens, he said he's going to ban sanctuary cities. It's not that we don't want these people in, but do it right. What happened, William? I have so many family members, married in that brought their families from like the Philippines and Malta and other places, and they had to pay $9,000 to $12,000 to become a citizen of the United States, and they had to take the test. They had to go about it the right way. Why can't these migrants do the same?
They had to swear an allegiance.
That's it.
To the Constitution.
And these family members, William, that are from the Philippines are so proud. They're so proud. And they said, the $9,000 to $12,000, well, that was okay because they're proud people of the United States now. You don't hear that from these migrants. What are they doing? They're coming in and robbing people. Mary says she's sick of it.
Well, they're ungrateful. That's the problem.
And the voting machines. Now, we talk about it, but the great thing, the one thing I wasn't concerned so much with the voting machines, William, as I was these drop boxes. Because they were dropping. Remember, we were talking. Remember, me and you were talking last election. We were going to go watch these boxes. Well, now there's so many cameras on them that they have caught 37 people just since January of trying to load up the boxes. And they haven't been out, but what, maybe 6-7 weeks? 37
Here in
people.
Washington and Oregon, they're setting fire to them.
Yeah, well, they can't load them. They're going to burn them.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on because I told William this might be a long show, but We got a lot of info for you guys tonight. Satellite images show damage from Israel attack on 2 Iranian military bases. It's pretty fierce, folks. And Iran is still waiting on how they're going to react to what Israel has done. Um, um,
The kids here in my neighborhood are coming home.
the Iran damage on facilities at secretive military base southeast of Iranian capital. The experts in the past have linked Tehran's one-time nuclear weapons program and another base tied to ballistic missile programs, satellite photos analyzed Sunday by Associated Press. Now, get this. So, what I've been able to find out with my sources over close, they're in Ukraine pretty much, but what they've told me with Iran is now starting to move everything underground. It's a big rush, it's a big hurry, because they are starting to see that Israel is finding out key points of where their nuclear weapons or nuclear um, storage facilities, and also those places that are making the nuclear weapons. They're starting to bomb those. They've got leaders. They've already got the leaders. Like I think I said last time we were on, William, that it's a plan. It's a plan. And I don't think Iran has got the plan except for just to load Hezbollah and Hamas and Houthi with as much as they can. So Iran's military um, basically acknowledged the damage, either Khorjur or Parchin from Israel attack Saturday, though it said the assault killed 4 Iranian soldiers. Um, it basically took out one of their facilities. And the Israel military declined to comment on this. However, the supreme leader, Khamenei, on Sunday told the audience that Israel attack should not be exaggerated nor played down. They do plan to retaliate in defense, and it will be fierce. Huh.
Iran loves to fight.
Yeah, Iran wants to start a war, but they don't want to be the one to start it. They really do. William, I really do believe they want Israel to go so far that Iran has to start a war. But, when we look at other countries, like when we do World War III report, you have to take a look at uh, them of Iran feeding the Middle East terrorists with what it can. And then we've got over there in Taiwan with China, so close to war. And
Iran
then
plays 100 to 1,000 year game, and the West plays, the next quarter game. So they're coming.
And today we see on the news that the United States is blaming the Kremlin on trying to interfere in Georgia's elections. Now we're talking Georgia, the country, not over by Russia, not here in the States. Now also Georgia and Putin are accusing the United States in meddling into their election. So why are we in the middle of this? And then, of course, the United States came forward today and said, no, it's Putin that's interfering in the elections. As you could see that all the elections, whether it's Georgia, whether it's Russia, China, anywhere, William? Somebody's interfering. Another country always interferes. And how? Through the voting, through the election terminals.
Right. All superpowers interfere with elections around the
world. And when you got a machine, the machine can be hacked.
Yes.
And Even last election, we kind of went over this with the stuffing of the ballots, and um, we seen during the Trump Hillary that if you push the button for Trump, it would switch to Hillary, and many people put it on YouTube until YouTube got mad and took them all off. So we knew they can hack these machines.
It needs to be a bipartisan count on paper, by hand. Each person that votes needs to show a identification card and stick their finger in the ink. That's the only way to stop the.
Yeah. Well, other countries, they've went to paper ballots just because of the same thing. Some countries are just so poor that they can't get in the election machines. And we're finding out that these election machines, you got like with the last election, William, this is what got me, was they closed down the elections at 11 o'clock, but they were still counting the votes. And they were adding votes, and all of a sudden a huge amount that they found that they could change on the election machines. Well, I can't. I got to do this right, so I don't get us taken out by YouTube.
Anyway, the next morning they claimed victory.
Yeah.
With the administration.
Right. And so and what they did is they found and there was one gentleman that found a lot of discrepancies to where it was after they closed, there was so many Biden votes that were put in that it was considered questionable. And I think that's where Trump said that, why Trump got in so much trouble, because he questioned it. I questioned it.
Congress certified the election. They could have questioned the election and demanded a recount, but they didn't step up to the plate and ensure that the American people had, confidence in the election. So, it is what it is now.
Well, Mary said not all states allow the cameras, but Mary, the one thing is they were putting them in a populated area that was easy for people to stick their ballots in. And the thing about it is the businesses around it had outside cameras just for, a crime and theft purposes. And they were the ones picking up. So, we don't have a choice. If they're going to put a box in the middle of a shopping center, of course, you're going to get video cameras from the businesses around it. And see, that's what we were counting on. And with that, this last election. And it did. It showed some of these guys dumping hundreds of ballots in. It could have been for Trump. We don't know. Nobody knows what the ballots were. We just seen them dumping hundreds at a time. The other thing they're trying to do is keep the migrants from voting.
We saw them pull up with vans, vans with boxes full of them.
Yeah. And the other thing is they're trying to get it to where even all the way to the Supreme Court for migrants to be able to vote. Why? How long have they been here? Some of them only a few months, and they want them to be able to vote.
It's because they have not sworn an allegiance to the Constitution.
They don't even speak our language.
What makes the United States different from all the other countries in the world is we adhere to a set of documents as our guiding light. And unless you swear an allegiance to those documents, you're just voting as a world citizen. You're not voting as a U.S. citizen.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to make this as a thoroughfare.
World citizens don't have a vote in the United States.
No, and they're even talking. Well, what about the service members? Well, why can't William? My whole thing is why can't they just vote on base?
So service members get their ballots early, and they're mailed to them wherever they are, and then they're sent back to their state.
Right. And see, the thing is now they're getting thousands of ballots that for servicemen that don't even exist. when they started
Yeah.
looking into it. So, and when you put your ballot in the mail, there's no showing no ID. They can't see that you are who you are. And that's why I was saying, why can't we have our service members vote on the base that they're deployed at?
And also, Ellie, the Postmaster General has the right to open any letter and view its contents to ensure, security of the mail system. So there's people at where every time there's a Postmaster General wherever in the country, right? Um, yeah, they can see which mails what, maybe slow down the mail for some, speed up the mail for others. We don't know. Maybe everybody's doing the right thing, but the possibility exists.
Yeah. So it's going to be. This is a election that's going to go down in history, I believe. It's going to be one of the most talked about years of uh, just the Republicans versus Democrats, and
Yeah, this is
it's
going to be the
hostile.
biggest election since Truman.
Yeah. All right. So the big thing was a ship comes under a suspected attack by Yemen Houthis. This was in the Bab el Mandeb Strait off the Red Sea. And so the U.S. launched airstrikes by fighter jets and ships on Yemen, Iran-backed Houthi rebels. We didn't let them just shoot and keep letting them shoot. This time, the United States actually launched airstrikes against them. I was surprised with that, William. When I read this article, I was like, wow, because when the Carl Vinson was down there and they started firing upon their ships, we didn't do anything.
So the Houthis now are using drone boats, and they hit a large oil tanker that happened to be empty, luckily, and just had water in its tanks for ballast. With a very heavy charge. I mean, this could be, 15,000 pounds of explosive in this boat. So it's a lot bigger than just missiles now. So the United States is going to have to react.
Yeah. And the other thing is what we're seeing. I know everybody's sick of hearing about it, but this whole North Korea joining Russia in the fight. Now, there's no new limits on Ukraine's use of U.S. arms if North Korea does join the fight, according to the Pentagon today. This was this morning. NATO
So,
confirms North Korean troops are in Russia, Kursk region. The Pentagon estimates 10,000 or more Korean troops deployed to eastern Russia. Ukraine urges allies to lift restrictions on long range missiles at this point.
so this is the big push by NATO, basically through the United Kingdom. Just so everybody knows. Um, they're sending, $50 billion to Ukraine. They're allowing the full medium range missiles. They're not like intercontinental ballistic missiles, but they are ballistic missiles that have significant range, like up to 500 kilometers. And because because of the North Koreans joining the fight, the excuse is now we can use these heavier weapons. Now, Putin said that's a red line, and he'll retaliate in the most devastating way,
Mm-hmm.
i.e.,
Yeah.
London has a problem. So they're treading a very, very fine line on, at this point, a thermonuclear exchange.
Ukraine Foreign Minister Sybia said Kyiv had been warning about the deployment for weeks and accused allies like the United States failing to deliver a strong response. And they're talking to NATO to be able to join NATO, so they do have to respond.
Well, they threaten NATO, either allow us to join NATO right now, or we'll develop in-house a nuclear weapon. Okay, so now keep in mind, Ukraine has nuclear power plants, so they can create the weapons grade uranium they need. They've already built their own in-house missile, so they are at this point blackmailing NATO, which everybody knows is a bunch of, well, feeble, spaghetti spined, they're not fighters. And they want the United States to allow our weapons to be used in a way that can lead to the unthinkable.
Now, over in the Indian Ocean, I know me and you talked about this before the show, the Chagos Islands. And we have, it's pretty much run by the UK. Now, the UK wants to pull out its military bases and leave, which leaves us up to, basically, they're saying it's anybody's island. Now, we do have a base there, and it's it's a very important military base. But more importantly, it's close to China, to where we would be able to strike.
So the base was, we were given the right by the British to put a base there, infinitum, okay, by the British. Now that the British are leaving, there's a question as to whether this base has the legal right to exist in those islands. So, and it's an important base. It's not an unimportant. It's not a lily pad. So, yeah, it's a bad deal.
And
the United States limbo.
Yeah,
With one of our very few bases in the world that nobody else really has.
yeah. And BRICS had their grand meeting that went on over last week. And you said Modi got together with China. Where was it, in Taiwan? Where was, I'm not going to, where would they meet?
So they, during the BRICS summit, we'll just call it that, China and India's Modi got together and decided to deconflict or pull back their troops that have been fighting up in the Himalayas. They're disengaging. Now in India, the population, there's a large population that are saying that Modi has committed treason on the deal, because they have been fighting the Chinese up there for a very long time, since Mao. And they don't want Chinese troops coming over the Himalayas and right down into India. And that part of India is where all the water comes from. Keep in mind, the Himalayas, the snowpack in the Himalayas feed all the major rivers in the subcontinents and Asia. It is extremely important, that part of the world, because not only does territorial rights come with it, it's the rights, water rights as well. So it's life and death for their farmers.
Well, China, what I was hearing out of Taiwan, though, William, was these islands that are building, they're trying to build them out to the middle of, to where they would control um, the waters behind Taiwan that they've been using. If they put enough islands there to block it off, everybody would have to go around, and then they would have basically the ports locked up.
So they want to do what is happening with the Suez Canal. They want to tax everybody that comes through it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they want to do BRICS, is
Mm-hmm.
because right now it's just to get out of the U.S. dollar. That's the excuse. But once it gets going, China will want to tax everybody else because guess what? China's got the biggest military. It can demand it, right? So they want tribute from the rest of the world to use the South China Sea as a throughway.
Right. Same way over in the Red Sea, where they're trying to, Iran and Yemen's helping them out, but where they're clogging up the Red Sea, that's one of the main shipping thoroughfares. The same thing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the United States will be at odds because as a superpower, we demand freedom of the sea for all.
Right. That's why we got international waters.
Well, we went to our very first war was over our boats getting hit by piracy. This is just state-owned piracy, mm-hmm. And the United States will go to war over piracy.
Yeah, well, that's what we're doing with Yemen.
Yeah, every time they will.
I never understood when Africa over there in Somalia, they were doing the same thing. They were huge pirates, and we never did anything. And then when the Biden administration came in, then they went over and started getting in the middle of the Somali war.
Well, NATO came. We pretty much shut down the piracy with NATO, Denmark, Germany, England, Africa. The United States. We've all taken our turn policing the Gulf of Aden down into the Indian Ocean to suppress Somali pirates. Well, they'll do the same thing in the South China Sea, except for we're not going to be suppressing Somalia, a lawless country. We're going to be trying to suppress a superpower. Yeah. That's ugly.
Yeah. The thing with China, over there with this the islands we were talking about, is China warns of countermeasure after the U.S. 2 billion arms and sale to Taiwan. That pissed them off. It would take countermeasures after the U.S. announced the $2 billion weapon deal with Taiwan. This broke Friday, and basically Beijing's has said this it would undermine Beijing's security.
To invade Taiwan. This was a reason to invade Taiwan, is what they said.
And security interests that would harm China-U.S. relations with peace and stability across Taiwan Strait. Taiwan's independence and separatist forces, Beijing says it strongly condemns, and it firmly opposes this, and claimed that it lodged a serious protest, but it's in Washington, but it really hasn't worked. And they said the only thing they could do is think of war at this point if the United States keeps interfering.
China is the country that always cries wolf. So at the point that China actually jumps into military action, nobody's going to be ready for it because they're always crying wolf. They're always whining. So we have no idea when or if this is going to happen. We'll be completely surprised. Even India is reporting, outlets are saying this is a reason for China to engage with Taiwan. Now, luckily, China is preparing right now to be hit by a major typhoon that's going through the Philippines.
Yeah, the Philippines, right, massive deaths there. How many did you say?
Right. 82 so far that they've been able to count. When a typhoon comes through, nobody can move around. All the communications are cut. It's a big disaster. If you build a house there right now, it has to have steel, concrete and steel anchorings deep into the ground, and you have to build that house with cement, pillars and floors. You can't just build a wooden structure anymore and get
No.
permits to build in the Philippines because you have to be able to ride out one of these typhoons.
A lot of people don't have that money, and from what I've been hearing, because of the relatives I say that came from the Philippines, is they had to leave because they just couldn't. Uh, the last, I believe it was a typhoon that hit. Either that, or it was something from rising waters where they got their houses got flooded out. They just didn't have the money, and the money they did have, it was better to put it towards coming to the United States than trying to build the requirements that they put in place.
Yeah, that's what all the third world thinks as well.
Right.
Every time there's a major natural disaster, and Philippines gets hit with an average of 3 typhoons a year.
Yeah. That's probably I haven't. I had a chance to meet a lot of them, but none of them speak English, so it's kind of hard. I was all friendly with them, but it's like, I don't speak your
Well,
language.
the Philippines teaches English in their schools, so almost
Well,
all
these
Filipinos
people
know.
didn't know, William. I was
But
surprised.
they don't have to let you know they know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
They have
That's true. I haven't
they have
met
their
very
natural
many of them,
language, English.
but uh, I do. Uh, what I do is I pay attention to my um, uh, niece that's married into the family. I watch her posts on Facebook to keep track of the family members, and the you would not believe how many has come over and of their family, and they all did it the right way. That's what gets me
Yeah.
really.
Well, if you're a expat or a retired military and you go to the Philippines, you got Social Security coming in, or maybe a military retirement. You're rich. I mean, you are an A1 class, uh, top of the 99th percentile earner in the Philippines, and there is no Social Security for families in the Philippines. So they'll marry their daughters off immediately, and the second you do, that person also is responsible for ensuring the well-being and safety of the family. And so the next thing, of course, is a green card and moving that direction. And a lot of expats move their families back to the United States as their health begins to fail.
So, and this one here, William, this is Senator Rand Paul. Um, and several other Republicans are demanding answers from Harris more because Biden really isn't giving no answers about those two Afghan nationals arrested in Oklahoma for plotting the election day terrorist attack. And I've talked about this a little bit, but what the thing is they came over when we loaded Afghans on planes and brought them over to our country and protected them under amnesty and sanctuary. And come to find out that the two uh, that were living in Oklahoma um, basically were part of what they have brought in themselves. They flew in. Um, Basically, they were doing it on behalf of ISIS. But after entering the United States, they promoted ISIS propaganda to not only that, but I found out they ended up at that um, terrorist camp in Oklahoma City. Not Oklahoma City, I'm sorry, the southern eastern part of Oklahoma, where the terrorist camps are, training camps are. So they not only did they become up, they got flown in, they got treated very nicely. Then they went to immediately to an ISIS training camp, and then they plotted to um, create
It's
havoc and
reported.
terrorist on election day.
It's reported that they
Yeah,
That's
and
what
so Rand
people.
Paul is now saying that they need to be charged as for terrorism.
So the FBI is existing under a continuing resolution in Congress. So they need funding. Okay, they need a reason for funding. So Congress now wants to know. They want the documents to ensure that what the FBI said was actually true with respect to these so-called terrorists. See what I'm saying? So Congress isn't exactly sure that there was a plot, and they want the FBI to put up the proof.
Yeah, they want Mayorkas because what they did is they sent a letter, not only with the Senate but Homeland Security, requesting information in the recent arrest of these guys. And they said after entering the United States to to Hedi to Twahedi, promoted ISIS propaganda, sent funds known to charities linked to ISIS, and supported different networks, and liquidated all assets to purchase weapons. With the
So
remaining, this is a letter
Mayorkas.
that was written to Mayorkas um, by, like I said, by Senate and Homeland Security.
So Mayorkas is the central distributor of all the information of all 17 U.S. intelligence agencies. They are the hub of the wheel. That's why Homeland Security was created, was because our intelligence communities were not communicating with each other, and so the director of Homeland Security is the clearinghouse for all the intelligence, and so they want from other intelligence agencies to be able to verify what the FBI is saying, and that's why they want a letter to Mayorkas.
And all the documents they said had sufficient evidence to show information in the terrorist screening data associated with the two Afghan nationals, and this was October 7th. Uh, Not only that, but they were related. Um, they were related basically, or no, not related. They were basically put to asylum and protection claims made by uh, different entities here in the United States, not necessarily by the Democrat Party, but or DHS, because DHS is the one that helped write this letter. So the letter stating that who in the government went ahead and brought these guys in, never vetted them, never looked into their past, but now they've made a threat on election day, and I think that's why this DOD martial law, as well as maybe a possibility of a civil war after the election, because we have many in this country. We had what 30,000 of them that are probably willing on election day to try to overthrow different states or cities and states.
Or at least just riot and foment a real conflict between the disputing parties here in the United States. So,
Yeah.
there's
So, William, did you want to add anything before we close out for the night? Boy, I thought we were going to go way over, but it wasn't bad.
So, it doesn't look like Zelensky is going to get involved with any peace talks.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's speculation now that should Trump become the next president, that Zelensky will probably be, exiled to his yacht. And peace talks engaged in with Russia, and probably a loss of more territory for Ukraine. So there's that.
Well,
Came
it's
from Phil Giraldi.
the thing with Ukraine is the the states that they're fighting over, William, were states that were pretty much being taken care of by Russia. And I'm going to say it's a 50-50 on it, because half of the people are Ukrainian and the other half are Russian. And the Russians just want, it was kind of like when we go back quite a few years where they ran to Crimea, to where Ukraine is making, well, Ukraine is basically um, socialist, almost communism is the way they are there, that you have to do everything that the government says, or you're going to be destroyed. And so these countries that are sitting on that border that they've been fighting over, I don't think even Zelensky at this point, and the country of Ukraine, can even afford to fix what they've destroyed.
Okay, that's it.
So, all right, William. So, uh, we thank everyone for watching, and subscribe and share, and hit that bell, and follow us on Facebook. Definitely subscribe, and maybe post our show to your social media to get more people to watch. I know we've lost a few with me being sick and being gone, but we're gaining them back slowly. And uh, we're the truth in news. Me and William, we're, even if we say something wrong, we're going to stand in there, and we're going to tell you we said something wrong, and correct it. Um, but we try our best to investigate and look into what's going on around the world. And to let you know, even like the World War III report, folks, where, but we're so close. And I know everybody gets tired of hearing, well, China's going to do Taiwan, or Putin's going to do something bad, or even Iran is ready for nuclear war. And it's day by day.
We just need one of these two countries that are at war right now to spread into regional wars. As soon as that happens, we're off to the races, Ellie.
Yeah. And this next, if the Democrat administration moves into place over the next 4 years, we're probably going to see war. They are big on war. They want to push the war because it makes a lot of money for everybody, and that's what's scary.
They prefer to be collective, and that tends to make them reactive rather than being ahead of the occurrences going on in the world. So it makes them slower in acting to disturbances in the world. So if you have one leader, they can make a decision, instantly. The president has the power as the top cop in the United States and the single most powerful leader in the world to be able to suppress these things. But the presidency we have right now, they want to be able to work more as a collective rather than a single individual making all the decisions in the executive.
And William, when I seen BRICS get together, I seen the division of the world of of communism versus socialism, because we're considered part of the socialism, fascism, Marxist system, and leading towards communist. So it would be so easy, according to like Jinping, for them to take over many countries and just switch them to the system they want of communist. And when I seen BRICS get together, and I seen North Korea join on with them, and Iran's there, Yemen's there, I'm starting to worry that it's us versus them now, uh, to where they're starting to get strong enough that they can possibly take a smaller country. I don't know if they could. I don't think they could take us. I'm with Trump on that. They can't get us, and I really don't think they could hurt the UK per se, or Europe, but some of these smaller countries, one by one, they can.
Well, the Western world has given up their leadership to to Southwest and Southeast Asia to a great degree that wasn't necessary. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, William, that is it for tonight. And me and William will be back on Wednesday for the World War III report. And hopefully no wars, no nuclears are going to be shot in missiles coming from Iran, going from Iran into Israel, or even Putin with Ukraine or China with Taiwan. This has been the closest we've been to war. This is the closest we've been to World War III, William, and everybody, that we've ever seen. We have a world divided at this point. And
think of it as creeping death.
Yeah. Okay, folks, I thank you for watching. Please subscribe and hit the bell and thumbs up, and follow us. Hit the follow on Facebook. And William, I thank you very much for being here tonight with us.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Ellie, and thank you to the people who listen to us, so that they have a better understanding of what's going on in the world, even though there's so much disinformation and crazy stuff being shown in the press. We try to find the core of what's really happening, and then if we miss the mark, we'll let you know right away.
That's it. All right, folks, you have a wonderful Monday, and we will see everyone on Wednesday. Kiss the kids and give the dog a bone, not give him some gravy.
That's right. Mickey's ready.
Yeah. So, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks for watching, folks.